This is SSN
Story Studio Network.
You're listening to the Entrepreneur to Author podcast.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur to Author podcast, the podcast that brings you practical strategies for building authority and growing your business. And now, here's your host, Scott McMillan.
Brenda James is a leadership and career development specialist and the founder of Leadership Reboot. She coaches clients to 3 outcomes: increased leadership confidence, more cohesive teams, and higher workplace well-being. She's also the author of the recently released book, Believe: How New Leaders Step Up and Into Their Full Potential. Brenda, welcome to Entrepreneur to Author. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
To start, I'd love if you could share a bit about yourself and your entrepreneurial journey for our audience.
Yeah, sure. Well, I started my entrepreneurial journey decades ago when I was only 17. I bought a typewriter. It was an electric typewriter back then. And I walked around our neighborhood looking for business people who needed help with typing documents. But my parents have always been self-employed, entrepreneurial. So it was ingrained in me really young that I could, I guess, drive my own destiny. And I was trying to add it up this morning, and I think I've spent about a third of my career in my own business, mostly doing coaching work. So it's something that I've done for a long, long time.
Oh, that's lovely. I love those early kind of childhood and adolescent stories of entrepreneurship. I think a lot of us had a few experiences, ranging from paper routes to something more involved. But that's wonderful. And listen, you've written Believe. I'm keen to understand a little bit more for our audience. Could you share a bit about the book? Who is it written for, and what are your goals for your reader?
Sure. I've been coaching leaders for a while now, and my initial idea for writing the book came from being so surprised how many leaders I saw that had a dent in their self-belief for whatever reason, and obviously saw more and more of that with our experience with COVID and leaders having to suddenly mobilize teams and people being fearful and anxious. So they were dealing with a lot more, and it just made leaders a bit more shaky in their own confidence. And so the book had always been an idea, but it became more about really supporting leaders to become more connected with their own self, their own strengths, become more self-aware, and to tap into their own well of inner strength, because that is what will carry them through. So it was about putting that into a context that gave them some story behind it, some examples of how it had worked, but also some simple tools that they could engage with right now to make a difference. So it's been really well received.
Oh, that's wonderful. And how did you find the writing process?
I love writing, Scott. I love writing. I have loved writing since I learned to write. And I remember I've got a clear memory of sitting in the classroom at my desk, writing pages and pages. So it's always been my go-to for processing emotions. For me, I've always journaled. This process, so I guess the start of the answer is I enjoyed it because I enjoy writing. My favorite times was when I could lock myself away for a whole day and just really get stuck into it. It's like meditation for me. The day would suddenly disappear. I did have challenges, but I had a really good writing coach.
Yes, you did.
So yeah. I always had someone to go to if I got a bit stuck or needed some guidance.
Yeah, wonderful. Wonderful. It's funny, with a lot of the authors that we work with, there's really those kind of bifurcation. There are those authors who love writing, are quite good at it, have a lot of experience doing it, even if it's maybe their first book. And then you've got on the other side, those that are completely uncomfortable, hate writing, but they know that they've got a message to get out there. And, the experience is very different between the two. But the nice thing is the way that the publishing process works, both get to the right outcome. What about the publishing process itself? What did you maybe find frustrating or maybe surprising or exciting about the publishing phase of work?
Well, I have to say, I'm so pleased that I made the decision to connect with Grammar Factory, because I had zero idea what was required once I'd actually put the last word into my book and pushed send to send it off to the editor who you connected me with. So it's like, I thought I was done. I thought I was done. But then suddenly I'm looking at editors' comments, choosing covers, which took a while for this book, looking at internal designs. I did the audio book. So, connecting with the sound engineer, getting all that set up. My biggest surprise was how much there was to do after I'd written the book. A lot of 4 a.m. starts to proofread for me. And it was, but because I engaged with you, I wasn't anxious about that. I don't know that I had any frustrations. I don't know. I'm sure there was along the way. I think the biggest one for me was having to check the audio. It was a long process, but apart from that, I learnt every step of the way, and I'm looking forward to doing it again with that knowledge next time.
Yeah. There are so many kind of, I don't know what the right word is, idiosyncrasies maybe around the publishing process, right? So much detail. I'm it's what I do every day, and there are still things that I learn that we haven't come across before. And I think our job as publishers are to try and handhold the author, make sure that the author can focus on their ideas, on making sure that they have the vision and that we're executing towards the vision of what they have for their book without having to get too into the weeds of all of those details.
Yeah, I felt really supported, I have to say.
Oh, that's wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, Brenda, what about your business goals for your book? What did you hope to accomplish with your book, and how are you using it to support your business?
My first goal was to be able to reach more people because of the work I do, and it's only me. There's only so many hours in a day for me to coach groups and leaders individually. And I really wanted to reach more people with the message of possibility. So that was the primary goal. I always knew that there was a chance clients would find me, new clients would find me through the book. And that has definitely happened. And it's nice because I'm working with some, large organizations in other cities here in New Zealand that I don't think they would have found me without the book. And I'm getting opportunities to get out and speak to large audiences that I'm not sure that would have happened without the book. So there's been some big bonuses for me, but it's primarily about reaching more people, getting that message out there about how to develop inner strength.
That's wonderful to hear that you're seeing impact so quickly, because it's not that long ago that you published the book. So to see that kind of impact already is really great to see. And it's interesting. Many of our authors don't really bother with brick and mortar, kind of the bookstore channel. But you chose to engage a traditional distributor in New Zealand alongside the regular online distribution, which I think is really interesting. Why was that, and how did you approach it?
Well, initially it was because we received media interest in the book. So I was interviewed for articles. We had a few radio interviews, and it was advised to me that the book really needs to be available in bookstores with that sort of promotion. So we did engage with a distributor, and, the main bookstores it's gone into ended up being in our South Island here in New Zealand, some in the North Island, Paper Plus, and some really neat, quirky little bookstores. The challenge, though, has been that the bookstores tend to favor major influencers or famous people. So it can be challenging to get in there. I've got a good distributor. I definitely wouldn't recommend doing it without someone who does that all the time, because even they've found it interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, isn't it? It's not impossible to get a book into a bookstore, but it's there aren't really economies of scale or economies of effort. In my experience, it's about reaching out bookstore by bookstore often, and just letting them know about the book. Sometimes offering to do an in-person event, which none of that is really all that easy to do at scale. So, but it's really interesting to hear your experience on that. For those who have considered writing a book, we have a lot of listeners who kind of two paths, right? Some who are already writing, or they have written a book and now they're leveraging it in their business. But there are a bunch of people who I think have considered writing a book and they're exploring it, but they haven't done it yet. What advice would you give them?
Just start. Write the first word. I mean, I had written a transcript, and getting a writing coach was a really good idea for me because she put structure to my writing. She gave me a process of structure to use. But I know many people who have got incredible stories. One friend of mine who I recently caught up with has an amazing life story. And I said to him, I'll write the story for you. So it's, I say, just do it. Look, even I had to face imposter syndrome. Even I, and I've written my whole life, even I was going, oh, who wants to read this? What am I? But throughout the process, you just keep going. You just keep writing one more word, one more sentence, one more page. And before you know it, you've actually got a book. Just do it.
That's right. That iteration is so much a part of it, isn't it? You just, one foot after the other. And, like you say, before you know it, you have a manuscript, and, it's going through it multiple times, having the editor do their pass multiple times. Eventually it just becomes something that, often you didn't expect in the first place. Yeah,
for sure.
Brenda, how can people get in touch with you to learn more about what you do and how they might work with you if they're interested?
Oh, for sure. So the best place to find out about me is the website, which is leadership-reboot.co.nz, or connect with me on LinkedIn. You'll find me there, Brenda James, and Instagram, Facebook, all of the social media channels. But really, the website will give a lot of information about what I actually do, and it's got the book page on there as well.
That's fantastic, and we'll be sure to put that in the show notes. This has been super interesting, Brenda. Thank you. I know your entrepreneur to author experience will really help those in our audience who are currently where you were not too long ago and are perhaps a bit anxious about what's to come. So thank you again for being here.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
As we wrap up this episode of Entrepreneur to Author, remember, now is the time. Time to write, time to publish, and time to grow. I'm Scott McMillan. Until next time.
This is Story Studio Network.